Hi, Renee.
Hello, Marvina. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Getting through the holidays and these warm days. And so, yeah, it's all good.
yeah. I'm realizing that I'm not a heat girl anymore. You know, when you're a kid, you love the summer. As I'm getting older, it's like, don't
So
like.
you say you're not a heat girl, you're not a hot girl.
I'm not a. Yeah, good point.
I just couldn't let it go. But yeah, but no, I totally understand. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
as kids, it's all good, right?
yeah,
You're out in the summer, from the morning to the heat. What is that?
yeah,
The hotter the better, right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And you
when
just, you're out playing all day, right? And
right.
if you got hot, you just went over, got the hose, got yourself
Yep.
wet a little bit, and went back out and did what you were doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
tell you, to be a kid and to live, right?
Yep.
So and that kind of opens up what we're going to talk about today. So this is our 73rd episode, and the name of our podcast today is Heads Up 7 Up.
Heads up,
So
7 up.
just talking a little bit about childhood games and how they parallel to life sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so Um, Heads Up 7 Up was one of those games I remember as a child. That was like the rainy day game,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We always played it every time.
Yeah.
It was a rainy day and we couldn't go out to recess. And, I guess, the teachers had to keep us engaged somehow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Uh, and so for those, there may be some that don't know what that game is. Do you want to explain a little bit, Renee? The
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So like you say, it was gloomy days, right? You
Uh-huh.
couldn't go out. There were dark days, and so you had to stay in the classroom. And so the teacher would pick 7 people to come up front
Hmm.
and stand in front of the blackboard.
Hmm.
And then everybody else would have to put their heads down on their desk and
Hmm.
not peek.
Hmm.
And so then you'd have these 7 people walk the aisles, walk through the classroom. And if you got tapped on the shoulder,
Hmm.
you were picked, you were
Hmm.
selected. And so the kids, after everybody was picked, they'd go back up and they'd stand in front of the blackboard. And then the teacher would say, okay, heads up, 7 up. And so you'd look up
Uh-huh.
and then you'd try to guess who selected you, right?
Right. Right.
And then if you were right, then you got to go up and take that place.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
It's funny how as kids, like, you can be entertained by anything, right?
yeah.
Because it was a very simple game.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so Heads Up, 7 Up was one. Red Light, Green Light, we used to play
Yeah.
that quite a
Yeah.
bit, I think. Simon Says, those were the rainy day games, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it's funny because what we didn't realize then is sometimes the games really parallel life, right?
They can. Yes. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
starts out, you're in a gloomy, down place,
Yeah.
you got to guess what is going on here,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Um, it can feel, quiet and uncertain, just like the classroom that day, right? You didn't really know what was going to happen. I mean, you had an idea, but I always liked rainy days because I don't have to be forced to go and do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We can just stay in the class and
Yeah.
teacher's gonna figure it out. When you gotta go out, you gotta figure out which friends you're gonna hang out with or
Yeah.
am I gonna play tetherball? Am I gonna play kickball? Am I gonna play
Yeah.
handball? I mean, it's just so many choices.
Yeah.
But on those rainy days, you didn't really feel like going out. It was just gloomy and cold.
Mhm.
So it brought some activity to the day, a little bit of excitement right before we got
Yeah.
back to our lessons or whatever. Um, but sometimes there are seasons when life does feel dark. When
Hmm.
we don't see clearly. You don't know what's going on. You feel like you're walking in a fog or with your head down and right, and you don't know exactly what's going on. You feel overlooked or forgotten, right?
Hmm.
Remember how it was, how you felt if you didn't get picked,
Uh,
right?
y- you knew when the teacher had certain people up there, it's like, well, they don't like me, or I'm not their friend, so I'm not going to get picked. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so and sometimes we feel like that in life, overlooked or forgotten, or
Mhm.
I never get picked. I never get chosen,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so, but God still moves in the dark, right? Even though we can't necessarily see what's going on.
Hmm.
You and I had a conversation. I don't know if you remember this, and we were talking about the game Heads Up 7 Up. Because as you know, my memory is not the best. So after we started talking about it, I was like, well, yeah, I do remember. I remember playing, but I don't remember, all the ins and outs of the game. And so we were talking, and I remember you were saying how, some people, because we have our heads down, right? Some people figured out, let me look at the shoes, right?
Yep. I had a girl in class that did that. Yep.
And I think when we were talking about it, it was in the context of kind of like cheating in life, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, well, was it really cheating? I mean, hey, he used it to her advantage. Head was down. Let me look at the shoes. I thought that was very smart. But so I again forgot where I was going with that. But I just thought I was like, I thought that was smart.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I guess you had to be there. Yeah.
But again, like in the game of 7 Up, just because we don't see God doesn't mean he's near, right? Because when you're looking down, you hear movement a little bit, but again, you don't know what's going on. And God shows up the same way in our lives. We may not know what's going on necessarily, but God is still moving. There's still movement. He's still tapping us sometimes,
Hmm.
right? To
Hmm.
let us know, I still got you.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, and when I thought about that, it's uh you know, we do have a friend. If you had a friend that was up there,
Hmm.
got picked to stand up there, you're pretty sure you might get a tap on the shoulder, right?
Right,
And so it
right.
was, you were really excited because, like I say, if it was other people, you're just going to be, ignored basically. But when I was thinking this from a spiritual standpoint, is we do
Uh-huh.
have a friend who is anxious to touch us,
Yes.
right? Right? And he's anxious for us to raise our heads and recognize that we've been chosen by him. So that's how I looked at it. It's
I'm looking this way because, of course, you got to be deep, deep, whatever, Renee. But yes, very good. Yes, I
yeah.
agree with you though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can look at it in both ways because, like you say, when your head is down and you don't feel necessarily like you're being valued or being noticed.
Mhm,
I should say
mhm,
noticed maybe. You still know that God is moving around you, that
mhm,
but
mhm.
then there is that moment when you feel that touch where you can look up and go, oh, okay, yeah,
Right,
I knew my friend was there for
right,
me. I knew my friend
right.
yeah, yeah,
Because you're living in the victory, right?
yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely.
already know that they got it right, going back to our last podcast. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. That's a very valid point too, that when you see your friend up there, you're like, okay, I got somebody who got my back.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a fun game. I always enjoyed that because you had those teachers sometimes that wanted you to just read
Yes.
On recess. No, that's wrong. That's just really wrong.
Right. Do you know this is what we've been looking forward to all day? That was the bright spot in the day was the recesses, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
those games were yeah.
yeah. So and there, like you say, there were other games that were like dodgeball. I was very good at that. There was
Okay.
kickball. My coordination wasn't as good for kickball, but
Okay.
tetherball. Yeah, you'd always want. I remember playing tetherball. My older sister, was not known to be a good person around the school. She was in the principal's office all the time. She was she was in so much
Okay.
trouble. I remember one time she got in a fight with one girl from school after class, and I mean she was a little hellion. Uh,
Okay.
but she would play tetherball with people, and she played with me one time. I went up and I said, "You want to play?" And she just cheated like nobody's business.
Okay.
Grabbed the rope and so
Tetherball was very serious.
oh
That
yeah.
was a serious game, right?
Yeah.
Um, I used to love that. I loved tetherball. But you can't touch the rope. And there were those that did not care. This
No.
is how we're playing.
Yeah. My hand just got in the way. I didn't try to.
As your hand is literally wrapped up
Yeah,
in
right.
rope, right? But yes, and just about, and this is all games, right? Because you know how it is to be on the playground and wanting to be chosen for whatever it is,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
kickball team, dodgeball. The wonderful thing about God is He chooses us every single time.
Yep.
He
Yep.
chooses us. We don't have to wonder, am I going to get picked? Because you remember how that feels too, or to be the last one picked, right?
Yep.
Because maybe you're not very athletic or, maybe you just weren't considered to be in the cool clique, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
because, we've all had those experiences. But the wonderful thing about God is he's going to choose us every time to be on
Yeah.
his,
Yeah.
right? He's gonna always remind us that, again, he chooses us. We don't even have to, it has nothing to do with us, right? He's gonna pick us every single time. Uh,
Yeah.
and that is a good feeling to know that you're chosen.
Yeah.
In spite of what you've done, how you show up, God still chooses you. He
Yep.
still chooses me, you know?
Yep. And you don't have to be standing on your tiptoes, waving your hand
Right,
for him to
right,
notice. It's like,
right. You
yeah,
mean
please, please, please. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
right. And I think that sometimes, to get through sometimes life situations, it's good to kind of think, to parallel things and to think about things, certain games you used to play and what the what's the word I'm looking for? The point of the game. I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now, but
Yeah.
just how that having that anxious feeling of hoping to get picked,
Hmm. Hmm.
hoping to get tapped, as your head is on the desk, hoping you're going to get tapped,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How wonderful it is to not have to, like, that was a lot of anxiety now that I think about it as a kid, right? Wanting to be chosen. Um,
Yeah.
but with God, we don't have to wonder,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Like you say, he'll touch us. He
Mhm.
touches us many times, and all we have to do is raise our head and
All
realize,
we
wow,
have to
he
do.
he's he picked us. He
That's
selected us.
exactly right. We see it every day through opportunities, through other
Hmm.
people, um, having just peace, right?
Yeah.
Um, Even when we're convicted, God is touching us, right?
Yeah.
Saying,
Yeah.
hey, that's not right. You need to,
Yeah.
run that back, redo that. But yes, and that is an awesome feeling to know that God is present in your life.
Hmm.
I don't know how I would get through life without his presence, knowing,
Right.
being able to feel him. It's one thing, and we talked about this a little bit in our last episode. It's one thing that we know to know, right? But
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
feel chosen, to feel that tap, to feel that I'm already in, I'm already on the team. Don't have to do anything extra, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, it's an awesome feeling and I'm very thankful for God's grace and that God does allow us to feel his touch.
You're right.
It
Yeah.
would be so much it would be even harder. I mean,
Oh,
it's
I
hard
know.
already. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that is um it's not just like when you're in prayer
uh-huh,
that you can feel his touch.
uh-huh.
You could be out on a walk, you could be listening to a song, you could be
Yes,
sitting at your desk.
yes.
You know,
Yep.
he's gonna remind you, hey, this is you and I. We're in
This
this together. I love you. I'm
right.
I'm looking out for you. You're my number one,
That's right.
you know. And to think of that you don't have to be in a specific posture, like
Right.
on your knees and praying for you
Right.
to feel that touch, but it's anytime, anywhere you
That's
could
the
feel the
awesome part.
presence of God. Yeah.
Yes, that's the awesome part. It
Yeah.
is you don't have to be um like you said, you don't have to have a certain posture. You don't have to be postured a certain way.
Right.
He's gonna meet you right there.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us, he said he'll leave the 99 for the one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is awesome because he still cares for those 99 as much as he cares for the one too, right?
Right.
But he will do whatever he has to do to go after us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is reassuring and kind of going back to our last episode, walking in victory. That's why we're able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because God has touched us and he's present in our lives and it's an
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I'm so very thankful. And again, especially with all that's going on in the world today, all the craziness, all the chaos, all the hopelessness, knowing that God
Mm-hmm.
cares enough for each and every one of us, even when we're acting out and being, as you said, as you called your sister, even when we're being hellions,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
still cares for us
Yeah.
just as much as the one that's not doing anything, that's just sitting there peacefully. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. And
So,
I think it's important too, and I do this quite often. I'll just say, thanks God for just making me aware of that.
mhm.
That your spirit made me aware of that. Even in our last episode, we were talking about two walkers that I passed, one very, very joyful, and one very like the end of the world was happening today.
Mhm.
Uh, in that moment, that's when God spoke to my heart about how do we look to others
Yes.
as Christians? How do we walk this life? And
Mhm.
I thanked him for that. Thank
Yeah.
you for mentioning that to my heart
Right.
because I don't want to be one of those people who forget that. And
Right.
then people look at me and go, "Ugh,
Right.
thank you, but no
They
thank
look at us like we look at them.
you."
Like,
Exactly.
really? You didn't hear me say, I know you heard me say hello.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But it's true. It
Yeah.
is so true. And it helps you to just move through life a little bit different, you know?
Mhm.
Like we always say, it's not all roses, you know what I'm saying? It's not gonna be an easy road. It is not. That's just like how life is. And that's another thing. I don't even know why we think that life should be simple and easy. And because if everything you look at, I mean, it's all, nothing comes super easy. You know what I'm saying? But we do have, I think we sometimes, you know, you know what, Marvina? I'm gonna stop there. That's another episode for another day. Um, but yeah, I think that we just got to remember you're chosen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You chose,
Absolutely.
God chose you.
Yep.
He loved you that much. You're worth that much to him.
Right.
He
Right.
chose you. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was nothing better than when, uh, let's say everybody up in the front of the class, not your friends, not people you associated with that much. You didn't expect to be chosen.
Mhm.
And so you're just kind of keeping your head down for the whole recess, right? You're just kind of like, all right, let's just get through this recess. And
Right.
then that unexpected tap.
Yeah.
And that just if you I don't know if you were ever experience this, but man, just how excited you got that, oh my gosh, I got picked, you
Right.
know? And I think if you're going through something where it's a dark time, it's gloomy,
Mhm.
and you maybe feel like God is around, just be anxious for that touch. Just
Yeah.
know that he wants to touch you.
Yeah.
We can fight it. We
Hmm.
can uh, just assume it'll never happen. God could never touch me, but just be anticipate that touch
Yes.
and the joy that it's going to bring.
Yeah.
And then when you open your eyes, you lift your head and you see the friend that touched you,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you
Yeah.
victoriously walk up to the front of the classroom, right?
That's right.
Join the to join those that have been chosen. And
Yeah.
you're right. It's an amazing feeling. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then the thing that you think about is that if you're that one person that doesn't get chosen,
Hmm.
usually,
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but I would try to look for the kids who didn't usually get chosen to go
Okay.
when it was my turn to tap, you know?
Okay.
And that's what we have the ability to do too,
That's true.
you know,
That's
is
so very true. That's a great point.
yeah, is to reach out and to tap someone and
Right.
let them see the love of God. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I love that point because again, you know what it feels like to not feel like you're chosen, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And so now I don't think I put that much thought into it as a kid.
Well, maybe because you were so popular.
I don't think that was the reason. I think it was more so that I'm sure at that time I thought about it, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I thought about it that deeply,
Yeah.
but I think that's a very great point because you know what it feels like to anticipate that touch and to get it and
Hmm.
to be able to share that with others is awesome.
Right. 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 To show them that it doesn't have to be gloomy and dark in their lives. Right.
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 That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
So,
I love that. I love that.
yeah. So,
So, so with that,
mhm.
um, hmm, I don't think I have anything else. I'm just checking my notes just to make sure.
Okay. And my last little note here was just we must raise our heads in victory to realize that we have been chosen.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you feel like you haven't experienced the touch or you're not feeling the touch, look for those opportunities. That's my last, God is touching us. Look, anticipate it, like you said, anticipate it. Whatever the situation is, anticipate God touching that situation and turning it around or bringing something. There's something that God is doing in that. And so
Right.
anticipate his touch. I'm gonna leave it there.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a good place to wrap it
Wrap
up.
it up. Well, until next time, Renee.
Until next time, you have a good one and enjoy
Thank
this
you. You
weather
too.
and
Yes.
stay out of trouble, okay?
gonna try my best. I am going to
All
we'll
right.
catch up the next time. I'll tell you how it goes.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay. You take care.
Bye-bye.
All right.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.